views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
I want to thank our distinguished guests, Dr. Torres, Dr. Corrado, Andrea Martin for coming out and being with us here today. Community members, plenty of resources out there for you to see. We have a pretty robust program for you. We have two physicians here to speak to you today. Both of them are researchers. Both of them are here hopefully to shed some light on a disease that, quite frankly, most of us don't want to talk about, okay? We'll give them a second, and then we'll get South Bronx again. I like how you guys like that. I mean, do we in the South Bronx really have a bad reputation? Do we really? Really? That's sad, but it's good. Good but sad. Okay, so they're here, and hopefully they can, shed some light on this disease that we really, really don't want to talk about. Okay, does everybody understand me? Oh, you do? Really? How about that? Well, we're going to do it in Spanish real quick, just in case we have a couple that don't. Okay, buenos días a todos. Mi nombre es Roberto Reyes. Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros hoy. Pudieron estar en cualquier otro lugar, pero decidieron estar aquí conmigo hoy y se lo agradezco de todo corazón. Tenemos a dos médicos aquí hoy que vinieron a darle un poco de información a ustedes. Los dos son investigadores y le van a hablar sobre un tema que sinceramente, especialmente en la comunidad latina, nosotros tenemos una visión. No queremos hablar sobre el tema de demencia, lo que es el Alzheimer. Okay? Están aquí y quizás le van a dar un poco de información que le prenda esa luz en la cabeza a usted. Wow, yo necesito esa ayuda. Okay? So, primeramente voy a darle la bienvenida al Dr. Torres, el presidente de R.A.I.N. First, I would like to call up Dr. Torres. He's our president and CEO of R.A.I.N., and he will give you some opening remarks. So with that, without further ado, Dr. Torres.
Thank you, Roberto. Good morning to all. Buenos días. It's an honor for me to be here before you this morning on a subject that's very, very special to me, having had a grandmother who had the illness and also an aunt who's going through the process right now, which is a painful experience for the family at large. So definitely understand where the caregiver impact lies. Quiero dar las gracias por estar aquí en el día de hoy y es un asunto, ¿verdad? Una enfermedad que me toca personalmente con mi abuela y mi tía que han pasado por esta experiencia. But I have to begin the program by saying that last year we had individuals that were here in attendance who are not with us, but only in spirit. Just recently, less than a month ago, R.A.I.N. lost its founder of the organization, Beatrice Castiglia Catullo. She died the day before Mother's Day. And she is surely missed as a woman that left a legacy, and it's an honor for us to continue to live in her vision and legacy. So it's amazing the seed that she planted and how it continues to just give and give and give each day that goes on. Quiero decirle que hemos perdido la presidenta, la fundadora de la agencia R.A.I.N., una señora con una visión increíble, y es especial reconocer cómo esa semilla que ella sembró sigue dando, no para, y tenemos que darle las gracias a ella. There is also another gentleman, Rod Rodriguez, who was with me for many years on the issue of Alzheimer's. And Rod suffered a stroke last Saturday and passed away. And he was part of the program last year. También el señor Rod Rodríguez, que ha estado en el campo del Alzheimer's conmigo por muchos años, desafortunadamente le dio un ataque cardíaco la semana pasada y falleció. Pero sigue él, ¿verdad? El trabajo de él, el impacto en la conferencia. There was a delay with the students from Millennium Art Academy, so they should be arriving at some point during the program. Han habido un atraso con los estudiantes que han estado participando con nosotros, una colaboración con la Academia de Millennium, una escuela superior aquí en el Bronx, y ya pronto llegarán los estudiantes. Okay? So, you know, with that, I think that you're going to be very pleased. We have a new partnership also developing with Sobro, with the garden, and you'll see that in our senior centers. Ya pronto van a apreciar una colaboración que vamos a empezar pronto con la organización Sobro, con los jardines portables en los centros que tenemos. Okay? So thank you, and I want to thank Lincoln Hospital, my team, my staff, my seniors. Quiero darle un agradecimiento a mis participantes, consumidores de los programas que están aquí, los directores, el staff, el equipo de la conferencia. Gracias. Y aquí le presento a la comisionadora Donna Corrado. I will introduce you now to Commissioner Donna Corrado.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. I know it's a very sobering topic, Alzheimer's disease, and I know that there's no one in this room that hasn't been impacted at one point in their lives, either caring for someone with Alzheimer's disease or dementia, or being cared for, or maybe someday being cared for. We're all impacted by this disease, but there's hope on the horizon. And I say that because of, like some of our keynote speakers today, doing the research that they need to do, and people finally paying attention. This is the Me Too movement for people with dementia. And as a representative of the City of New York and of this administration, I'd like to announce and just let all of you know that this is on the mayor's radar in a very big way. And he also wants to make an impact on how the city can, in very real ways, support caregivers, the 1.3 million caregivers throughout New York City. And I would say that that is really a low ball figure because there's many, many more that we know don't even identify as caregivers. They identify as friends, as lovers, as partners, as children, daughters and sons and neighbors, and do not see themselves as caregivers. But we are all caregivers. I know I'm a caregiver for my 83-year-old father. I've been caregiving with my parents who cared for their great-grandparents when I was only 4 years old. And I witnessed throughout my entire childhood my own mother with 4 little children taking care of her aunt and uncle who had dementia, many times at the cost of caring for us because she had absolutely no support, no one, no government programs to help her and to help her family members with dementia. Then later on, her own mother, which was my grandmother, she was not with us any longer, my own mother. But my grandmother, who had dementia, lived for another 13 years after my mom passed away at a very young age. And the incredible, I can't even find the right words to say, but the incredible energy that went to caring for her and making sure that she lived out her older years in dignity and respect. And I was fortunate because I have always been, at least in my adult life and my professional care, in aging services, so I knew where to go and to get help. But she spent the last years in a Catholic Charities nursing home being well cared for, and she was one of the lucky ones. So with that, it's very important to me, and I think a very big victory on behalf of all of the caregiving advocates, that this mayor is paying attention to caregivers, would like to support that. And with that, we've started a really huge campaign around identifying caregivers and directing them to where they can find resources, real tangible support, whether it's respite care, whether it's home care, whether it's information, whatever it is that we can do as a city. We're stepping up our game, and I'm very proud of that. But more importantly, your keynote speakers today and your researchers, cure this damn disease, please. On behalf of all of New Yorkers and everyone in this country, we put great faith in you. Enjoy your day. I hope you learn a lot. I know it's going to be informative, and we're all in this together. And in the spirit of B, I'd like to say thank you to R.A.I.N for taking on this subject, but for the work all of you do every day to live out B's legacy, but more importantly, to help us take care of people in the Bronx, and I know you're spreading out now to Brooklyn, all over New York City, because older people deserve good community providers, and I appreciate this partnership. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Buenos días, todo el mundo. Como se han podido dar cuenta, esta es una conferencia bilingüe. Just like all of you have noticed, this is going to be a bilingual conference because we're going to honor the fact that here in New York City, we are able to speak different languages. Como se pueden dar cuenta, esta conferencia va a ser bilingüe porque vamos a hacer honor y vamos a valorar que aquí en New York podemos hablar diferentes lenguajes. Mi nombre es Lisette Valois. My name is Lisette Valois. I am one of the board members at R.A.I.N, proudly board member. Yo soy una de las miembros de la junta directiva de R.A.I.N y ahora que la comisionada terminó de hablar, voy a hacer un conciso resumen de lo que ella dijo. Like I say, I'm one of the board members at R.A.I.N, and I'm going to do a brief review of what the commissioner just spoke about in Spanish. Okay? Ella mencionó que afortunadamente el alcalde de la ciudad de Nueva York está haciendo honor y está reconociendo que tenemos 1.3 millones de cuidadores aquí en Nueva York. Desafortunadamente la gente no se da cuenta, no se identifican como cuidadores para poder tener acceso al gran número de programas que se están abriendo en los últimos años. Ella también habló de corazón, de su historia como cuidadora de su padre de 83 años en este momento, y también fue testiga del hecho que su madre estuvo cuidando a su tía y a su abuela, que también padecieron de la enfermedad de Alzheimer's. También mencionó que ella es afortunada porque está en el campo de las personas mayores en este momento y puede tener acceso a los diferentes servicios disponibles. Desafortunadamente, cuando su madre era una cuidadora, no tuvo disposición de acceder a los servicios. Con eso, ella hizo un llamado a cuán importante es para ustedes tener acceso a los servicios disponibles, pero tienen que identificarse como cuidadores, porque hoy en día hay una alerta y hay una campaña bien importante. Hay servicios, pero tienen que tener acceso. Pregunten y accedan a la información para que se puedan beneficiar. Y con eso les dejo saber que van a haber otros presentadores aquí, a los cuales les voy a hacer la interpretación, pero el resto de presentantes aquí van a poder hablar en los dos lenguajes. Muchas gracias.
I would like to now give a very warm welcome to our funding, right? Our funder, Andrea Martin, who represents the New York State Department of Health, and we're blessed to have this program because their office actually awarded our agency this grant. Ahora le queremos dar la bienvenida a la señora Andrea Martin del Departamento de Salud en el estado de Nueva York, que por esa oficina nosotros tenemos este programa y es una madre nueva, and she's a new mom. All right, Ms. Martin.
Thank you. Good morning. I know, and I'm called Mom. That's not me, but yes. Thank you for having me today. Oh, have you come closer? Sure. So, as Dr. Torres said, this event today is made in part by an unprecedented investment The governor of New York State has invested $25 million to support services for caregivers, supporting people with memory loss, Alzheimer's disease, and dementia across New York State. This is the single largest investment across the United States. This is the single largest state investment for caregiver support services such as this.
La señora Andrea acaba de mencionar que el gobernador de Nueva York está haciendo una inversión grande en este momento de 24 millones, 25 millones de dólares están siendo invertidos en este momento por el gobernador para subsidiar los servicios para los cuidadores en Nueva York, que eso es una inversión grandísima de la cual tenemos que estar agradecidos.
So New York State recognizes that special attention and focus is really needed to bring services to every New York State resident. Grants to R.A.I.N and other partners here today and across the state are really putting that investment into action, which it's really an honor for me to be here and to see that in action today. Grants to R.A.I.N and other providers fulfill our goal through conferences such as today, education events, wellness events, support groups, joint enrichment activities. There's so much going on across the state just for you, for caregivers.
Ella dice que estas becas que el departamento de Nueva York, le está dando a organizaciones como por ejemplo R.A.I.N, permiten que eventos tan importantes como grupos de apoyo, información y referido, cualquier tipo de servicio que se le está dando ahora en la comunidad, son posibles gracias a las becas que está dando el gobierno de Nueva York.
So that $25 million investment really would not mean anything without the partners that we have in R.A.I.N and others across the state and across New York City in all 5 boroughs. But most importantly, this investment wouldn't be anything without you, the caregivers, the care partners, the people caring for people with memory loss and Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for investing in yourself. Please, I just want to encourage you to take advantage of the day, educate yourself, increase your awareness, talk to staff, see what other services and other events are available for you. This is for you. This is for you to take advantage of to fill your well while you're taking care of others. You don't have to be alone in this journey. You have so many people surrounding you today in this room, in the lobby, here at R.A.I.N, and other partners. You have people with you. You don't have to be alone through this journey. So please take advantage. Thank you for being here today, and enjoy.
También ella mencionó que los servicios están disponibles en los 5 condados del estado de Nueva York y que más que nada estos servicios no serían nada sin ustedes. Ustedes son los cuidadores y todo lo que se hace es gracias a ustedes. Ella les expresó agradecimiento por estar aquí, por tomar el tiempo de venir a empoderarse un poco más y asimismo está pidiéndoles que se beneficien, que tomen ventaja de todos los diferentes proveedores que están aquí para ustedes hoy. Allá afuera hay mesas, hay información, hagan preguntas, ¿ok? Empodérense para salir adelante. Ustedes no tienen que ir a través de esta carrera solos porque hay servicios, pero no es hasta cuando ustedes se den cuenta que hay ayuda allá afuera, mientras están cuidando a otros, también cuidarse a sí mismos, que el cambio va a venir. Gracias a ustedes por tomar el tiempo de estar aquí y beneficíense de la mejor manera posible mientras están aquí hoy. Gracias.
Okay, ahora vamos a presentar al Dr. Luxinger. Now we're going to present Dr. Luxinger. He is an associate professor of medicine at Columbia University Medical Center. He's also the vice chair for clinical epidemiological research. I'm having trouble with that in English, so you can only imagine what it's going to be like in Spanish, but we're going to give it a shot, okay? In the Department of Medicine and the director of Community Engagement Core for the Columbia CTSA. He is the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease and Associated Disorders. He has been conducting research in Alzheimer's disease since 1999, including research on prevention and caregiving. He is currently the principal investigator of 5 grants from the National Institutes of Health, examining caregiving and other aspects of Alzheimer's disease. I am not going to attempt epidemiological in Spanish. We're not going to do that. El doctor Lucinger vino aquí hoy. Él es uno de los investigadores principales en el Hospital Columbia University Medical Center. Es uno de los líderes en la medicina y director de, en la comunidad en investigaciones. Ahora, I'm going to open up the computer for you. Y lo voy a dejar que él haga lo de él.
Good morning. Buenos días. It's a real pleasure to be here to talk about some of the work that we're doing related to dementia and dementia caregiving. Es un placer estar aquí para hablar del trabajo que estamos haciendo relacionado con la demencia y los cuidadores o el cuidado de la demencia. I'm going to apologize in advance. I prepared for a one-language presentation, and so I have more slides than I should. So I'm going to go a little fast. Me voy a disculpar por adelantado porque estaba preparado para dar la charla en un solo lenguaje y me preparé y entonces tengo muchos slides, así que voy a ir un poquito rápido. First, my disclosures. I really have nothing to disclose. I'm the editor-in-chief of a journal for which I receive a stipend. I also receive modest stipends for a book. But otherwise, I don't have any industry funding. All my funding comes from foundations or the federal government. In particular, I want to highlight the PCORI grant, which and the grant from the National Institute of Nursing Research, which fund my caregiving research. No tengo ninguna relación con industrias farmacéuticas que declarar. Lo único que tengo que declarar es que recibo pagos por ser editor en jefe de una revista y por ser editor de un libro. Fuera de eso, todo el dinero que recibo para hacer investigación viene de fundaciones y del gobierno de los Estados Unidos. So I want to acknowledge, of course, my work can't be done alone. It has to be done with a lot of people. Por supuesto, mi trabajo no lo hago solo, lo hago con mucha gente. Y quiero en particular, I want in particular to highlight my team at Columbia University Medical Center, also the New York State-funded Center of Excellence in Alzheimer's Disease, and then, collaborators at R.A.I.N, Caring Kind, also at the Alzheimer's Association. Quiero reconocer en particular a mis colaboradores en la Universidad de Columbia y en el Centro de Excelencia de Alzheimer's Disease. I have to say, it's a pleasure for me to be here today because I could not do my work, or I would not have been able to do my work without the help of people like Anderson, like Lisette Valois, like Roberto Reyes along the years. So I'm very grateful to their partnership in all these years. Quiero decir que para mí es un verdadero placer estar aquí porque yo no podría hacer mi trabajo sin la colaboración que tengo con gente como Anderson Torres, Lisette Valois y Roberto Reyes. Así que estoy muy agradecido con ellos. So, as I said before, I'm going to go a little fast, but hopefully not too fast. This graphic shows the trends for an increase in Alzheimer's dementia in the United States. And as you can see, it's very clearly going up, and the purple is in the people who are age 85 years and older, and in the yellow is people who are 75 and 84. And you can see clearly that because people are living longer and to longer ages, there's an increase in the case of dementia. Esta gráfica muestra que hay un aumento en los casos del Alzheimer desde ahora hasta el año 2050. Y sobre todo este aumento es mayor en gente que tiene 85 años o más y gente que está entre los 75 y los 84 años. Now, this is the risk that the risk of dementia that you can expect to have if you're aged 65. So for women, it's around 21% or 2 in 10, and for men is around 11%, a little bit more than 1 in 10. Este es el riesgo que uno puede tener a la edad de 65 años de que le dé Alzheimer. Para mujeres es alrededor de 20% o 2 de cada 10 personas, y para hombres es 11%, 1 de cada 10 personas. And a salient issue about Alzheimer's disease is that while most chronic diseases, such as diabetes, heart disease, and cancer, which we're seeing here, stroke, heart disease, prostate cancer, breast cancer, even HIV, the deaths from those diseases have gone down from 2000 to 2015, but the deaths from Alzheimer's disease have increased. Entonces, algo que es importante es que mientras la mayoría de las enfermedades, como por ejemplo el HIV, los accidentes cerebrovasculares, las enfermedades del corazón y el cáncer han disminuido en los últimos 15 años, la enfermedad de Alzheimer, la mortalidad, las muertes por esta enfermedad han aumentado. So I'm going to go on to show some evidence from, that we've collected from the tip of northern Manhattan, and this is from a study that's led mostly by Richard Mayo at Columbia University Medical Center. Les voy a mostrar un poquito de evidencia que hemos recolectado en el Alto Manhattan y particularmente en Inwood and Hamilton Heights en un estudio liderado por un investigador llamado Richard Mayo. Y one of the questions that I want to ask is, while Alzheimer's affects all, it does affect some more than others, and I want to cover that briefly. So I want to ask the question, is Alzheimer's a health disparity condition? And I want to ask, is it more common in minorities? Are risk factors different in minorities? Are risk factors more common in minorities? And is the care of Alzheimer's different in minorities? And the reason why I'm asking this is because when you say that minorities have more Alzheimer's disease, there's some skepticism. Well, that's just because they have more risk factors or they don't take care of themselves. So I mean to demonstrate that it's a bit more than that. Entonces yo quiero preguntar si la enfermedad de Alzheimer tiene disparidades particularmente en las minorías. Y para eso quiero preguntar si el Alzheimer es más común en las minorías étnicas, si los factores de riesgo son diferentes en las minorías, si los factores de riesgo son más comunes en las minorías y si el cuidado del Alzheimer es diferente en las minorías. So this is a graphic that shows that in the community of Northern Manhattan, the risk of Alzheimer's disease in Hispanics and African Americans is the dashed line, in Hispanics is this line here, is much higher than in non-Hispanic whites that can be observed here. And this is not explained by differences in education or whether, less educated minorities cannot complete testing or anything like that. Entonces, este gráfico muestra que el riesgo de la enfermedad de Alzheimer es mucho más alto en los afroamericanos, que se ve aquí en esta línea, y en los hispanos, que se ve en esta línea, que en gente blanca. Y esto no está explicado por diferencias en lenguaje o en educación. So, why is this? So one example of a biological difference, that is not something that we do or that we could change, is the ApoE4, which is the most common risk factor for late onset Alzheimer's disease. It's present in 50% of subjects with Alzheimer's, whereas the general population has between 15 and 25% of this gene. And there's clear differences in how it increases the risk of Alzheimer's disease in ethnic groups. So in whites, it increases the risk by 2.5 times, in Hispanics by just 1.1 times, and in African Americans just by 1 time. This is in Northern Manhattan. So the risk of Alzheimer's disease in Hispanics and African Americans is high regardless of the ApoE4 status. Whether they're in whites, it depends a lot on the ApoE4 gene. So that is just to show that the risk of Alzheimer's is different depending on genes in African Americans, Hispanics, and whites. Entonces esto es para demostrar que Perdón, no hice esta parte en español, así que lo voy a hacer. Esto lo que demuestra es que un gen que se llama el ApoE4 en particular, es un factor de riesgo en la demencia de aparición tardía, está presente en más de la mitad de personas con la enfermedad de Alzheimer, mientras que en la población general está más o menos en un 15%, y el aumento del riesgo de Alzheimer, que depende de este gen, es mucho mayor en blancos que en hispanos o en afroamericanos. Entonces, en blancos el riesgo aumenta 2.5 veces, en hispanos 1.1 veces, es decir, es casi igual si se tiene o si no se tiene el gen, y en afroamericanos no hace diferencia. Entonces, el riesgo de la enfermedad de Alzheimer en hispanos y afroamericanos es alto independientemente de su gen, que es algo que no podemos cambiar. Now, another thing is risk factors. So I've done a lot of work on diabetes and Alzheimer's disease, which has been found to be a risk factor. And here we can see that diabetes is much higher in African Americans, seen here in the blue line, than whites, and in Latinos than in whites in the general population. And this is, these are just different ways of cutting it, and you can see that there's always a difference. Entonces, uno de los mayores factores de riesgo que se han visto para enfermedad de Alzheimer es la diabetes. Y la diabetes es mucho más común en afroamericanos y latinos que en los blancos. And we have found that diabetes actually may explain a lot of the ethnic differences in Alzheimer's disease. So we estimated that 39% of cases of Alzheimer's disease in northern Manhattan could be explained by prediabetes and diabetes. In this proportion is much higher among Hispanics and African Americans. And we found that diabetes ethnic disparities may account for 18% of disparities in cognitive impairment. So that's just a way of saying that the differences in diabetes between ethnic groups may account for some of the difference, but not all of the difference in Alzheimer's between ethnic groups. Entonces, nosotros hemos conseguido que más o menos el 39% de los casos de la enfermedad de Alzheimer en el norte de Manhattan pueden ser explicados por prediabetes y diabetes. Y esto es mucho mayor en afroamericanos e hispanos. Y hemos estimado que las disparidades étnicas de la diabetes pudieran explicar más o menos un 18%, una quinta parte de las disparidades en la enfermedad de Alzheimer y otras formas de problemas cognitivos. Es decir, que la diabetes puede ser que explique una parte, pero no explica todas las diferencias. So we have gone to study the impact of diabetes earlier in the lifespan. You're not just in people who are 65 years of age, but people who are between 50 and 65 years of age. And we have found that even in people who have an average age of 59 years, and this is a group of Hispanics, that there's already a difference in memory, such that people with diabetes and pre-diabetes have lower memory, have more forgetfulness, if you will, than people who do not have diabetes. So the problem with diabetes is a very serious one, and particularly in ethnic minorities, African Americans and Hispanics, who have more diabetes. Entonces, viendo esta relación de la diabetes con la enfermedad de Alzheimer nos ha llevado a estudiar el impacto de la diabetes más temprano en edad, y hemos descubierto que en gente ya que tiene 59 años, o sea que no es tan mayor, que ya la gente con diabetes y prediabetes tiene menos, se recuerdan de menos palabras, o sea ya tienen afectadas la memoria comparada con gente que no tiene diabetes ni prediabetes. Now, this graphic shows what you find in the brain of people with Alzheimer's disease. So plaques made of a substance called amyloid, which you may have heard about, and tangles made of a substance called tau. So another question that we're asking is, does the difference in forgetfulness and in diagnosing Alzheimer's or dementia in people, African Americans and Hispanic compared to whites, means that they have more tangles and more plaques than whites. And we don't know what the answer to that is. Entonces, esto lo que muestra es una gráfica del cerebro de una persona que tiene enfermedad de Alzheimer. Y lo típico que se ve son las placas de amiloide y las fibrillas, se me olvidó cómo se dice esto en español, pero son las fibrillas de una sustancia que se llama tau. Entonces nos hemos preguntado si la presencia, si gente que es afroamericana o hispana tiene más de esto en el cerebro que gente blanca, y no sabemos la respuesta. So nowadays, fortunately, you don't have to wait for people to die in order to check this out. I mean, the graphic that I showed before is from an autopsy. Now you can actually see the amyloid in people when they're alive, and we're conducting a study doing this in live people. And you can also look at the tau. And we're now recruiting people from northern Manhattan, upper Manhattan, and also the Bronx, who are between the ages of 60 and 69. So if you're interested in participating in this study, please contact me. I'll show you my contact at the end. Entonces nosotros ahora estamos haciendo un estudio tratando de ver si hay diferencias entre hispanos, afroamericanos y blancos en estas sustancias en el cerebro. Para ver esto hay que esperar que la gente se muera. Afortunadamente hay nuevas tecnologías que nos permiten ver esto antes de que la gente se muera. Entonces esto es un scan de amiloide, y esto es lo que se ve en el scan de amiloide, y esto es un scan de tau. Ahorita estamos haciendo un estudio en gente entre 60 y 69 años para ver si hay diferencias entre grupos étnicos en esto, y a ver si la diabetes está relacionada con esto. Por cierto que si están interesados en participar en este estudio, si viven en el Bronx o en el norte de Manhattan, me pueden contactar. Yo les voy a dar mi contacto al final. So, unfortunately, most of the therapies that have been tried for Alzheimer's disease that target the amyloid have not worked. And this graphic is from a recent trial that was published in the New England Journal of Medicine in January of this year, which you can see people who get treated or people who don't get treated. The lines are very close together, meaning that there was no benefit from the treatments. And in general, this has happened again and again. The treatments that target amyloid in particular have not worked. Esta gráfica muestra los resultados de un estudio reciente de un tipo de tratamiento para quitar el amiloide del cerebro, y lo que puedo decir en resumen es que no han funcionado. Y estudio tras estudio no ha resultado en beneficios para curar la enfermedad de Alzheimer. So this has led basically to the conclusion that nowadays, and this is a statement provided by the government in 2010, that there's really no pharmaceutical or other treatment to prevent or cure Alzheimer's disease. Y entonces esto ha llevado a decir que en el presente no existen tratamientos para curar o prevenir la enfermedad de Alzheimer. Y fortunately, something that is being observed, and I'm sorry, this is a very busy slide, so I'll just tell you what the slide shows. Something that's been observed, and this is a study that compared, the new cases of Alzheimer's in different epochs or different periods in time, different decades. This is one decade, another decade, another decade, another decade. This is from the Framingham study, which is a famous study in Massachusetts. And what's been observed is that the new cases in Alzheimer's, let me put it this way, that what we call the incidence, which is the new cases of Alzheimer's by 1,000 people in the population, has been decreasing over time. So this is good news, and we think that the reason for this is probably the better care that we have for stroke, the better care that we have for diabetes, the better care that we have for heart disease, for example. In other words, in general, we are healthier because there's better public health and there's better public treatments. However, because there's more of us and because we're living longer, the numbers of people with Alzheimer's disease will continue going up. Entonces, a pesar de que no existe tratamiento para Alzheimer, se ha observado, y estos son los resultados de un estudio reciente que comparó qué ha estado pasando con el Alzheimer en las últimas décadas. Y lo que se ha observado es que los nuevos casos de Alzheimer se han desacelerado. Por cada 1.000 personas hay cada vez, de década en década, hay menos casos nuevos de Alzheimer. ¿Y por qué es esto? Bueno, creemos que es sencillamente porque la salud de la población ha mejorado, tenemos mejor acceso a tratamientos médicos, tenemos una mejora en el riesgo de accidentes cerebrovasculares, tenemos mejor cuidado del corazón, por ejemplo. Sin embargo, como la población está aumentando y como estamos viviendo mucho más, los casos de Alzheimer en absoluto, los casos totales, siguen aumentando. So, since there is no cure for Alzheimer's disease, the consequence is an increasing burden on family. And this burden seems higher among minorities without, minimizing the overall burden. And this is because they have a higher risk of dementia and they have less access to resources among those, particularly those who have lower socioeconomic status. Entonces, en el presente, no hay cura para el Alzheimer y la consecuencia es que hay una mayor carga de cuidado para las familias que tienen una persona afectada por el Alzheimer y esta carga parece ser mayor en minorías étnicas, sin quitarle nada a la gente que no es de minorías, y esto se debe a que las minorías tienen un mayor riesgo de demencia y que probablemente tienen menos acceso a recursos, particularmente para gente con un estado socioeconómico bajo. And the important things about caregiving is that it increases emotional stress and increases physical stress as well, which leads to both mental health problems and physical health problems. And this is just from the Alzheimer's Association, from the latest, the 2018 Facts and Figures reports from the Alzheimer's Association, and it compares caregivers of Alzheimer's to caregivers of other types of conditions, and it shows that the caregiving of Alzheimer's disease produces more stress and produces, compared to people from other conditions, and that the physical stress of caregiving, people with with Alzheimer's dementia report more physical stress of caregiving compared to people with other conditions. Entonces, la consecuencia de la mayor carga de cuidado es que el cuidado resulta en un estrés emocional y un estrés físico que lleva a problemas de salud mental y a problemas también problemas de salud física. Entonces, para volver a la pregunta que pregunté originalmente, ¿es el Alzheimer? I'm sorry, so let me go in English again. I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up. So going to the question that I asked originally, is Alzheimer's a health disparity issue? So you bet, because it's more common in minorities, the risk factors may be different in minorities, the risk factors are more common in minorities, and there are distinctive issues in the care of minorities with Alzheimer's for patients and families. So what I'm trying to say here is that the whole issue about Alzheimer's being more common in minorities, it's not just a coincidence. I mean, there's something going on here that we need to look at a little bit more. Entonces, volviendo a la pregunta que había preguntado originalmente, si la enfermedad de Alzheimer es un problema de disparidad de salud, yo digo por supuesto que sí. Es más común en las minorías, los factores de riesgo son diferentes en las minorías, son más comunes en las minorías y hay diferencias en el cuidado de las minorías con la enfermedad de Alzheimer, tanto para pacientes como para familias. So, you know, we have observed that minorities have a higher burden of dementia caregiving. And this is, again, because of the higher dementia prevalence, but also because of particular attitudes about caregiving. So familism, which is a concept that caregiving is a family affair, leads to minorities, particularly Hispanics, to be less likely to delegate care. And I see this over and over again, you know, that when you add, you know, Hispanic caregivers in particular just feel very guilty giving, and particularly daughters, you know, delegating the care of their loved ones to someone else. And then the other issue is high psychosocial burden. At least in Northern Manhattan where we are, there's a lot of people who have low socioeconomic status, low income, and they don't have access to resources, and this is tremendously stressful, and I'll speak a little bit more about this. Entonces, las minorías tienen una mayor carga de cuidado de gente con Alzheimer, otra vez porque el Alzheimer o la demencia es más común en las minorías, pero también por ciertas actitudes hacia el cuidado de personas con Alzheimer. Entonces hay algo que se llama el familismo, que es que se ha observado que en hispanos en particular es muy importante el rol de la familia en el cuidado del paciente, y eso lleva a que los cuidadores hispanos, particularmente hijas, no quieren, se sientan culpables de delegar el cuidado de la persona con demencia a otras familias. Y lo otro problema es que, bueno, hay muchas familias que tienen, particularmente en el norte de Manhattan donde yo trabajo, que no tienen muchos recursos socioeconómicos, y eso los lleva a no tener acceso a recursos y produce estrés. So this has led to the observation that interventions for caregivers are not likely to work unless social needs are met. And you know, this is particularly high in minorities because of psychosocial stressors and lack of resources, particularly high in minorities. But of course, I mean, this applies to any person with low socioeconomic status. And work from our colleague Caroline Gelman at Hunter University suggests that unless these stresses are met, interventions for caregivers cannot be successful. So the implication of this is that unless you meet, you know, the general psychosocial needs of caregivers, then you can't directly address the caregiving issue. And this is particularly important for agencies like R.A.I.N and other agencies. Entonces, algo que hemos observado es que las intervenciones para cuidadores no van a funcionar si no se ayudan a las necesidades sociales de los cuidadores. Y esto es porque el estrés psicosocial y la falta de recursos es particularmente alto en minorías, pero esto también se aplica a cualquier grupo étnico que no tenga acceso a recursos. Y el trabajo de una investigadora que se llama Caroline Gelman sugiere que si nosotros no ayudamos a los cuidadores a tener acceso a recursos en general, entonces las intervenciones para cuidadores no van a funcionar. So in this sense, you know, we've been conducting several studies in Northern Manhattan. The first one was called the Northern Manhattan Caregiver Intervention Project. The study is finished. It was a randomized controlled trial of the NYU Caregiver Intervention, which is a famous intervention for that seeks to improve the mental health and particularly the social networks of caregivers versus just regular case management. Entonces esto nos ha llevado a hacer varios estudios. Este se llama el Proyecto de los Cuidadores del Norte de Manhattan, y era un estudio comparando una intervención llamada la NYU Caregiver Intervention, que es una intervención que trata de mejorar las relaciones sociales y la salud mental de los cuidadores, y lo comparamos sencillamente con una ayuda social general. This is a very busy slide, and I don't expect you to read it, but one of the things that we learned is that the majority of caregivers, I mean, we went into this project actually targeting spouses. And what we learned was actually that only 30% of caregivers in our community were spouses. The 60% of caregivers were daughters who were fairly young, and who were working, who had kids, etc. And the other thing that we learned is the majority of people had an income of well over less than $40,000 a year. Entonces, esto es una gráfica que no espero que la lean, pero lo que destaca de esta gráfica es que nosotros comenzamos este estudio pensando nada más en cuidadores que eran esposos o parejas de personas con Alzheimer. Y lo que aprendimos es que nada más la tercera parte de los cuidadores eran esposos, la gran mayoría eran hijas. Y estas hijas tenían sus propias familias, tenían hijas, tenían trabajo y además tenían un ingreso de bastante menos de $40,000 al año. And one thing that we found was that the main predictors of the health, the mental health of the caregiver, which we measured as depressive symptoms and also as reported burden, the main predictors were satisfaction with social support. So the caregivers who reported more satisfaction with social support had better health overall. And of course, the severity of the people with dementia, the person with dementia. So if the person with dementia had more severe dementia, more behavioral problems, more agitation, then the caregiver was more stressed. And then the other one, surprisingly, was the physical health of the caregiver. So if the caregiver had less physical health, they also reported less good mental health. And the important thing is that we observed that both study arms over time reported an improvement in reported caregiver burden, this, seen from less to more. Entonces, lo que es importante es que lo que vimos en el estudio es que durante el estudio las dos intervenciones resultaron en mejorías en la salud mental de la persona. However, in the intervention group, we did notice that the higher number of sessions attended, the higher the reduction in burden and depressive symptoms. Pero sí observamos que aunque en las dos grupos mejoraron, los que tuvieron más contactos en la intervención, o sea, los que tuvieron más reuniones con un trabajador social, tuvieron una mejoría más grande en su salud mental. So I think one of the conclusions that I reached from this study is that it's important to have some kind of intervention for caregivers, no matter what, results in an improvement. Entonces, una conclusión importante de este estudio es que ayudar a los cuidadores de la manera que sea tiene un impacto positivo. So I'm going to go a little bit faster because I think I want to get the conference back on schedule. Voy a ir un poquito más rápido porque quiero que la conferencia no se retrase tanto. So another study that we conducted and we're closing right now is the New York City Hispanic Dementia Caregiver Research Program, which included a long-term follow-up of the previous study, the new registry, and development of new technology-based interventions and collaborations with caregivers. Este es otro estudio que hicimos, fue este estudio que se llama el Programa de Cuidadores de Demencia de la Ciudad de Nueva York, y lo que hicimos fue que seguimos a la gente del otro estudio por varios años. También reclutamos nuevos participantes, y lo otro es que con ayuda de cuidadores hemos desarrollado intervenciones con tecnología, por ejemplo en el Internet, para ayudar a cuidadores. Y lo que, and one of the things that we found in this study over time, now we have 5 years, is that over time the stress among caregivers was higher with worse dementia behavior, which is not surprising, younger caregiver age, which indicates to us perhaps that younger caregivers, because they work, because they have their own kids, they have their own families, have more stress than older caregivers, less satisfaction with social support. Again, this is an incredibly important factor time and time again. Strengthening social support for caregivers improves mental health. worse health status, so those who had more physical problems had more distress, and also worse coping mechanisms. So, you know, what this suggests is that, it's hard to change the dementia behavior. It's hard to change the caregiver age. We really can't change it, but we can perhaps tailor interventions for younger caregivers. But we can improve satisfaction with social support, we can improve health status, and we can improve coping mechanisms, and intervention should be directed towards that. Entonces, en el estudio que le dijimos antes, lo que hemos observado, y esto es más de 400 personas por 5 años, es que digamos, la ansiedad en los cuidadores ha sido mayor con peor comportamiento de la persona con demencia, mientras más joven es el cuidador, mientras menor satisfacción con apoyo social tiene el cuidador, mientras peor sea el estado de salud del cuidador y con peores estrategias para enfrentar el problema del cuidado. Entonces, la condición de la persona con demencia no la podemos cambiar. La edad del cuidador tampoco la podemos cambiar, pero tal vez tenemos que tomar esto en cuenta para hacer intervenciones especiales para la gente más joven. Sí podemos cambiar la satisfacción con el apoyo social y hay intervenciones que hacen eso. También tal vez podamos mejorar el estado de salud de los cuidadores y también podemos ayudar a los cuidadores a tener mejores maneras de enfrentar el estrés del cuidado. So again, we recently finished another clinical trial that we called NICE as an acronym, Northern Manhattan Hispanic Caregiver Intervention Effectiveness Study. I spend very long hours coming up with acronyms like this. And this grant was funded by PCORI, and it was the first ever trial to compare two caregiver interventions. This had never been done. I mean, there had been studies of different caregiver interventions, but none of them had been compared to see if one was better than the other. So in any group, I mean, we did the study in Hispanics, but these had never been compared head to head. So we compared the NYU caregiver intervention and the resources for enhancing caregiver health, which are arguably the two best known interventions and which are recommended by many agencies. And we had a target sample of 200 Hispanic caregivers. So we recruited 221 caregivers. Again, the majority were women. The majority were adult children with a mean age of 58 years. 73 were living with a person with dementia, all Hispanic. The majority had Spanish as their preferred language. The great majority earned less than $50,000 a year. And the majority of dementia was Alzheimer's. And again, what we observed is that both interventions had improvements in burden, but there was no difference between the interventions, meaning both interventions worked. The interventions actually had modest, this graphic is a little bit deceiving. There was actually very little improvement in depression. Entonces lo que se observó es que las dos intervenciones resultaron en una mejora en la carga que reportaron o el estrés que reportaron los cuidadores. No hubo diferencia, o sea, las dos intervenciones fueron efectivas. Y hubo muy poquita mejora en la depresión. And there was definitely an improvement in both arms in stress. You know, and again, there was no difference between the two arms. Y hubo mejora en el estrés en ambas intervenciones. So this led us to the conclusion that both interventions, so whichever you take, was good for caregivers in improving their mental health. Entonces esto nos llevó a la conclusión que cualquiera de las dos intervenciones funcionaban en cuidadores. No tenía diferencia cuál se usaba. However, we observed that the interventions were most effective among spouse caregivers, and I'm sorry, and this should have said, this is a mistake, should have been older caregivers. And it so happens that spouse caregivers tended to be older. So there was a relationship between being a younger caregiver and a younger caregiver and adult child caregiver, okay? Now, what I think the strong message here is that the research and interventions for caregivers have focused mostly on spouses. And I guess this has to be due to the fact that it's easier to reach spouses, older spouses in particular, than adult children. But what we're discovering is that adult children and spouses have to be treated differently. So why? I can only speculate. My guess is that, again, spouses may tend to be retired, while adult children, particularly daughters, work, have their own children, fear losing their jobs, etc. So we have to treat them differently. And I think that's the main message. Entonces, el mensaje, una de las cosas que vimos es que las intervenciones fueron más efectivas en gente mayor y en gente que eran esposos o esposas. Que por cierto, la gente que eran esposos o esposas tendían a ser mayor, mientras que los cuidadores que eran hijos o hijas eran más jóvenes también. Y lo que es importante aquí es que la conclusión de que tenemos que enfrentar los problemas de los cuidadores, que son particularmente hijos o hijas, que tienen sus propias familias, tienen sus hijos, aparte de tener a sus padres que están cuidando, tienen sus trabajos, tienen el miedo de perder sus trabajos, hay que tratarlos diferentes. So, again, the main message, interventions need to be different for different family positions and age groups. Entonces, este es el mismo mensaje que les había dicho antes. Now, another thing that we've observed during our research is very important anecdotes. So I do quantitative research, meaning that I look at numbers, more of this, less than that. But by interacting with caregivers, you also get a lot of anecdotes. And these are some of the anecdotes that we get. So the arrangements are non-traditional. So for example, divorced spouses are go to take care of their their divorced person with dementia after many years separated, which is kind of mind-blowing, but I've seen it. Person with dementia cared by stepchildren, for example, which you wouldn't think about. And when I'm saying this, I'm talking about stepchildren which really hadn't much of a relation with the person with dementia. Caregivers are afraid of losing their jobs. I mean, I've gotten calls of people crying, saying because there was some emergency, some behavioral problem with a person with dementia, hospitalization, they can't go to work, and they're really fearful of losing their jobs and losing their income. Caregivers have difficulty navigating the healthcare and social welfare system for themselves and the person with dementia. So although there are resources out there are resources for caregivers and for the person with dementia, caregivers need help in accessing this information. So I think even if you just give people some kind of navigation and direction about the resources that are available, that is very, very helpful. Entonces, también he aprendido algunas anécdotas, aparte de los números y cosas que yo estaba mostrando. Y las anécdotas, por ejemplo, son que los arreglos familiares no son tradicionales. Entonces, por ejemplo, hemos visto que esposas que se han divorciado de sus maridos con Alzheimer regresan para cuidarlo después de muchos años porque se sienten culpables. Que la persona con demencia la cuidan los hijastros o hijastras, no los hijos naturales también, o sea, cosas que a uno no se le ocurren, o a mí por lo menos no se me hubiera ocurrido. Hemos aprendido que los cuidadores tienen muchísimo miedo de perder sus trabajos y hemos recibido llamadas de gente llorando porque tienen miedo de que por faltar al trabajo, por cuidar a la persona con demencia van a perder el trabajo. Y hemos aprendido que los cuidadores tienen mucha dificultad navegando el sistema de salud. Entonces hay recursos para ayudar a los cuidadores y hay recursos para ayudar a la persona con demencia, pero la gente necesita ayuda navegando el sistema. Another thing is, are there positive aspects of caregiving? I mean, everything that I've talked about is negative, negative, negative. But the bottom line is that we focus on the negative, but many caregivers report a gratifying experience. And I've had caregivers, come to me and say, what's the problem? I mean, I was taken care of when I was a child, and now it's my turn. And, people say it like it's the most natural thing, which may be natural for all of you in the audience, but it's certainly not natural from my perspective. And so I think one of the things that there's a lot of interest in now is how can we emphasize and help that positive aspect of caregiving to help the health of caregivers. So we need to learn the predictors of positive experiences. Entonces, otra cosa que hemos observado y que nos hemos preguntado es que si hay aspectos positivos de cuidar a la persona con demencia. Hasta ahora he hablado nada más de los aspectos negativos, pero nosotros hay cuidadores que nos han reportado, ¿no? ¿Cuál es el problema? Yo me siento muy agradecido de poder cuidar a mis padres porque ellos me cuidaron a mí cuando yo era hijo y ahora yo los puedo ayudar. Entonces, una de las cosas que también tenemos que aprender es cómo podemos enfatizar esa parte positiva del cuidar para que la gente se sienta mejor, se sienta más satisfecha y para mejorar la experiencia de cuidar a una persona con demencia. Entonces necesitamos aprender cuáles son las características que hacen que la experiencia de cuidar a la persona con demencia sea positiva. También hace falta, so it's also necessary to collect objective measures of health. So everything that I've talked to you about is self-reported. People report I'm more depressed, I'm more stressed, I have less, my health is not good. But we need, better objective things, like evidence that they have higher blood pressure or diabetes. So now we're collecting measures of stress and other measures. También hace falta tener más evidencia de la parte de evidencia objetiva con la salud. Lo que yo le he mostrado hasta ahora es algo que reporta la gente. La gente reporta que está más deprimida, que tiene más estrés, que su salud no es buena. Pero necesitamos más evidencia de que tienen más problemas médicos, que tienen menos presión, que su presión está mal, que tienen más diabetes, este tipo de cosas. Entonces estamos haciendo investigación en esto. And there's a need to facilitate early detection of dementia. So dementia is detected too late when it is too severe and caregivers are unprepared. And so a typical scenario is that, people say everything's fine, and then one day, the person with dementia is just lost in the street, and then people never planned for this. So we need earlier detection. Entonces, la otra cosa que necesitamos es necesitamos facilitar la detección temprana de la demencia, porque cuando se detecta demasiado tarde, las familias no tienen tiempo para poder planear para cuidar a la persona, y eso resulta en desastre. So we're testing strategies to detect dementia, and if you want more information, there are pamphlets on the right side in English and Spanish, on the right side of the white table outside. I would appreciate if you can go and take a look and contact us if you're interested. Entonces, en relación a esto, estamos conduciendo unos estudios para probar maneras de detectar la demencia más temprano, y hay unos panfletos en la mesa blanca que está afuera hacia la derecha en inglés y en español, así que por favor véanla para que tengan más información. So, I'm just going to go the conclusions because I've been asked to wrap up. So the burden of caregiving is increasing because there is no cure for dementia and elderly people are living longer. The burden of dementia caregiving on minorities seems disproportionately high. At the very least, caregivers need information about dementia, how to cope with it, and resources. Interventions need to be tailored to different age groups, family positions, and caregiver preferences. Entonces, en conclusión, la carga del cuidado de una persona con demencia está aumentando porque no hay cura para la demencia y porque la gente mayor está viviendo más tiempo. La carga de demencia sobre las minorías parece ser desproporcionalmente alta. Al menos los cuidadores necesitan información acerca de la demencia, acerca de cómo enfrentarla y información acerca de recursos. Y las intervenciones para cuidadores necesitan ser individualizadas para diferentes grupos de edad, diferentes posiciones en la familia y las preferencias de los cuidadores. So here's my email. If you want to contact me, if you want any information, please feel free to email me at this email. Si ustedes quieren más información, por favor siéntanse libres de contactarme por correo electrónico, que es mi correo electrónico. Muchísimas gracias. Thanks.
Gracias a ustedes.
Yeah, sure.
Vamos a tomar unos 5 minutos. We're going to take 5 minutes to ask any questions that you may have with the doctor. Any questions? Anybody? I see you. The first hand. Here we come.
Yes, go ahead.
As we know, there are certain neurons in the brain that automatically get shut off after a certain period of age. Have you looked into that part where maybe the difference of those neurons might affect the Alzheimer's stages and the dementia?
Yeah, so the question is whether I've done research looking at whether shutting down of neurons at older age affects the risk of dementia. I'm not personally, but there's many people who are doing that. Okay, and absolutely, there's evidence that the shutting down of neurons increases the risk of developing dementia. That's why it is recommended that people stay active, so that our neurons stay turned on, if you will. Okay, and that definitely helps at least delay the risk of dementia. La pregunta, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Hi, I'm wondering if you're including or if you're planning to do the APOE4 gene and also the CT, and where it identifies the amyloid substance in family members to identify any early detention in the family about Alzheimer's disease?
Yeah, so I'm not personally doing that, but my collaborators at Columbia University Medical Center and at the University of Miami, who is about to speak, they're certainly working on that, and I'll let her, actually elaborate more on that. Okay, you're welcome.
Here's the next question. Okay, here we go. Come on. You guys are gonna make me lose a couple inches today, but that's okay. Some about that 38-inch waistline, right, Dr. Torres? Remember that?
My question is Alzheimer's prevalent among men more so than women, or is no
Yeah, so this one I will translate because I think it's of interest to everybody. So, la pregunta es si la enfermedad de Alzheimer es más común en mujeres que hombres. So the question is Alzheimer's more common in women than men? So that's controversial, okay? As you can see, I showed a graphic that suggested that Alzheimer's disease is more common in women than men. So there's two schools of thought, okay? One school of thought is that yes, definitely, that women are at a higher risk of Alzheimer's than men, and there's a lot of research going on about genes, hormones, why this is, okay? There's another school of thought that believes that the only reason why there's that difference is because women live longer than men, okay? But there's a controversy that hasn't been resolved. So hay dos escuelas de pensamiento acerca de si las mujeres les da más Alzheimer que a los hombres. Una escuela de pensamiento dice que sí, que las mujeres están a mayor riesgo y hay mucha investigación que está buscando si hay diferencias en hormonas o en genes o cosas así de por qué hay la diferencia. Hay otra escuela de pensamiento de que no hay diferencias y la razón por la que se observa que las mujeres le dan más Alzheimer es porque las mujeres viven más que los hombres. Entonces tienen más riesgo que le dé porque viven hasta más viejas.
No more questions? Any other questions? Acá hay una. Ahí, behind the cameraman. No la vi. Se me comió. Oh, yeah, you're gonna work me today.
Doctor, yo voy en español porque soy puertorriqueña y mi inglés es más básico.
No se preocupe, señora.
Mi padre padeció demencia. Él murió a los 114 años. ¿Corro el riesgo de yo padecerlo también?
So the question is that her father had dementia and died at 114. Does she have a higher risk of dementia? Entonces, eso es complicado responderle. El hecho que uno tenga un familiar con demencia quiere decir que uno está a mayor riesgo, pero no que está condenado a que le dé la demencia, sobre todo a esa edad tan mayor, ¿no? Yo diría que probablemente a su padre le dio demencia porque vivió muchísimo tiempo. So I'm telling her that that's a very difficult question to answer. The fact, and this is for late onset dementia. For late onset dementia, the fact that you have a family member with dementia does not mean that you're doomed to get dementia. You're a higher risk, but you're not doomed to get it. And in this case, I think the fact that her father lived at 114, probably had something to do with the fact that he developed dementia, that he just was so old that he got to the point where he would get it. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
El doctor Luxinger se tiene que ir. Tiene otra cosa que hacer. Unfortunately, Dr. Luxinger has to go. He is still working and seeing patients, so he's on his way out. But we do thank him for his, being here with us today. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna turn this one off. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna proceed right along smartly. Vamos a proceder. Ahora le voy a presentar a Katrina Celis. I'm gonna present Katrina Celis. Okay. Dr. Katrina Celis is a project manager for the Alzheimer's Disease Sequencing Project, follow-up study for John P. Hussman Institute of Human Genomics at the University of Miami. So they came from Miami just now. I'm kind of a little envious of the weather. Well, that's okay. It's raining here too. She oversees the research related to the genetics of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. In minority populations, she earned her medical degree at the Universidad de Carabobo in Venezuela and her medical genetics research fellow at Columbia University in New York. She has 10 years of experience in genetic research, and her previous work includes discovery of candidate genes and variants associated with congenital heart disease, cardiomyopathy, left lip and palate, congenital diaphragmatic hernia, and developmental delay. Wow. I'm not saying that in Spanish. That's a lot of big words. Pero la doctora Katrina Celis está aquí, de la Universidad de Miami, para hablar un poco sobre lo que es la genética en la enfermedad de Alzheimer y Parkinson's. Con eso, la doctora Celis.
Good morning. So I think Dr. Lucien was having trouble with the microphone, but I think I'm right on the level. So, so I'm very happy to be here. I come from Miami, as Roberto was mentioning, and I want to introduce my colleague, Vanessa Rodriguez, who is the clinical coordinator for the Puerto Rican Alzheimer's disease study that we are currently conducting. I am very happy that, that Dr. Lusinger gave this kind of like open statement in terms of Alzheimer's disease, where we are in terms of clinical, either clinical trials or what's done in the clinical or epidemiologic end of Alzheimer's disease. In my case, I'm going to actually talk a bit about genetics and how the genetics affects Alzheimer's disease. Also, this is a presentation done in English, but I'm bilingual, so I'm going to try to do Spanish simultaneously so everybody can follow the presentation. Buenos días, estoy muy contenta de estar acá. Mi nombre es Catrina Celis, vengo de la Universidad de Miami. Mi compañera Vanessa Rodríguez es la coordinadora clínica del estudio de Puerto Rico. Ella va a estar pasando, a medida que yo vaya hablando, panfletos con la información del estudio. Y estoy contenta de que el doctor Lusinger abrió la conferencia con información clínica acerca del Alzheimer y cómo, o sea, cuál es el estatus ahora del Alzheimer en la parte clínica y epidemiológica. En mi caso voy a hablar un poco más de la parte genética y cómo influye la genética en la enfermedad de Alzheimer. So as I spoke earlier, I come from the Hussman Institute of Human Genetics. Our director is Dr. Margaret Perry-Chuck-Vance. She is sorry that she couldn't be here today. She had another event to go to, but she's one of the world-renowned geneticists, especially in Alzheimer's disease. She was the founder of the ApoE gene, which is the gene that was described by Dr. Lusinger that has the highest risk associated with Alzheimer's disease, and we're going to talk about a little bit more about that in a second. And our role in the Institute is basically try to find or discover genes that are associated with Alzheimer's disease among other diseases. And what we try to do is try to apply that knowledge and try to find either better ways to prevent the disease, to have better treatments, or to try to prevent the prognosis of the condition. Como les había comentado, nosotros venimos de la Universidad de Miami, específicamente del Instituto de Genética Hussman. La directora del centro es la doctora Margaret Perry-Chuck-Vance. Ella se disculpa por no haber estado el día de hoy acá, tenía otros compromisos. Ella es la persona que encontró el gen del ApoE durante sus estudios de PhD y por supuesto es bien reconocida a nivel mundial en el mundo de la genética y el Alzheimer por este descubrimiento y otros descubrimientos en genética. So, I'm going to go back to what Dr. Lusinger was talking about, where we are on treatment for Alzheimer's disease. And the reality is that, like he said, none of the attempts to try to treat the condition has worked. So the trials have failed. And I'm going to elaborate a little bit more why this has failed from the genetics standpoint of view. And there could be 4 reasons why this has happened. And the first reason is he was talking about, you remember those slides where he was talking about amyloid, right? So amyloid is a molecule that is found in the brain, and it was thought in the beginning that this was related to Alzheimer's disease in a very high percentage, right? So there is a subset of that amyloid that is called amyloid beta that it was thought to be a toxic molecule. So when that molecule was over there in the brain. It will generate or exacerbate a lot of process that will make the neuron cells decay or die or go in a wrong path, sort of thing. So the first maybe error or possible error that why drugs have not worked is that it could not be the only molecule that is responsible for Alzheimer's disease. So we cannot focus all our effort and money on one molecule when it could be multiple molecules. So that's one problem. The second problem that we have is that most of the treatments start after the amyloid process has already started to degrade or decay the neural cells. So there's really not much help if you start something when the bad things have already started. So that's the second problem. The third problem is that it could be that the molecule is not druggable, meaning that even though you give it treatment, maybe it's not the right treatment or it doesn't react to treatment. So that's the third problem. The fourth problem is that it could be that we need additional targets. Like I was saying, it might not be the only molecule, and it might be that there is some other factors, right, either enhancers or inhibitors that could work or play a role in how this molecule works. Como estaba diciendo el doctor Lusinger, el estatus actual del tratamiento de Alzheimer no ha funcionado. La realidad es que pueden existir 4 problemas por los cuales este tratamiento no ha funcionado. Uno, porque la molécula de amiloide en el cerebro puede ser no la única molécula que está causando problemas a nivel cerebral cuando la enfermedad se establece. 2, puede ser que el tratamiento se comience posterior a el inicio del proceso de degeneración causado por la amiloide. 3, porque la molécula puede no reaccionar al tratamiento. O 4, porque existan otras moléculas que pueden ser aceleradores o inhibidores de esta molécula que pueden tener un papel importante en el proceso de cómo esta molécula actúa. Entonces, so this was something, because it is such a priority in healthcare, Alzheimer's disease worldwide, right? And especially in the United States. There was a disappointment when all this money and all this effort was put into amyloid treatments and nothing really worked. So what happened? So when Obama was in house, there was they signed this contract, right, between the NIH, which is the National Institute of Health, and the government. That's Dr. Collins, which is the head of the NIH, and our ex-president Obama. And they signed a contract for $50 million to give to Alzheimer's research to try to find something to help people either treat the disease or do prevention of the disease or better early diagnosis of the condition. So out of that, 50% of that money, which is $25 million, was given to sequencing, meaning genetic studies, where we're trying to sequence the DNA of anybody with the condition and trying to find what's in their DNA that might be causing the condition. So the purpose was, like I said, to try to identify new and better drug targets for therapeutic intervention of AD. There was also the NAPA, which is the National Alzheimer Protective Act, and the idea to include everybody that we can in Alzheimer's disease to try to decrease the gap in health disparity in this condition. So, por toda la preocupación que existía acerca de que los tratamientos no funcionaban a nivel mundial y específicamente aquí en los Estados Unidos, hubo se firmó un contrato en donde el Instituto Nacional de Salud y el gobierno acordaron a que 50 millones de dólares iban a ser donados para estudios genéticos del Alzheimer. De ese 50 millones, 50%, es decir, 25 millones de dólares, iban a ser donados específicamente para hacer secuencias de ADN, es decir, investigaciones genéticas, para tratar de identificar qué había en el ADN de esas personas que tenían la condición que podía causar la enfermedad. So, because all this money was given, there was a lot of people that have done Alzheimer's disease in different centers of the country. So one of the rules for by Dr. Collins was, you guys as researchers have to work together. I'm not giving money in small centers or specific universities. You guys have to work together to try to find the cure or the right treatment. So all these centers, universities that you see on the slide are part of what is called the Alzheimer's Disease Genetic Consortium, or ADGC. So the ADGC was created to do this massive genetic project, right, to try to sequence DNA from people that has the disease and people that don't have the disease in order to try to find what's causing it. One of the things is that there is already some information out there, like Dr. Lusinger was saying, that there are some genetic factors already known. And you're going to say, well, why is it important that if you already know that there are some genes that are associated with the disease, why spend all that money doing the same? So there's a couple of reasons for that. One thing is that almost like 75 to 80% of the samples or the people that participate in the studies that are part of the ADGC are samples from studies from white populations, or what they call non-Hispanic whites, or Caucasian or European backgrounds. So that's the first problem, because you can't generalize a treatment for a population that is diverse based on a study that is done in one specific population. So that's one problem. The second problem is that, as you can see in this graph, there is the ApoE gene on red. There is kind of like a yellowish area where there's the common variant genes, which is a group of genes that are known to have some association with the condition. There's the presenilin 1 and 2, which is the PSEN1 and PSN2, which are thought to be genetically inherited in an autosomal dominant way, which means that if a parent has it, the child has a 50% chance of having it, and usually this type of families have an early onset type of Alzheimer's disease, and is not a big percentage. It's usually 5 to 10% of the population. And there is also some rare variants on blue that are new coming. They're rare variants that are not common in the population, but now are thought to be related to some cases of Alzheimer's disease. But as you can see on green, on your left side, almost 50% of that pie, of that circle, it's unknown. So there's a lot to be found that at this point we don't know genetically. So that's the second reason why this is important. So again, why is it important to include diverse groups as African Americans and Hispanics in studies of AD? And I say this every time I talk to community groups, to caregivers. There's a lot we could do with money and knowledge in science, but there's little that we can do if people don't participate in genetic research. And we really want to help the community. I also had a family member who passed away from AD, and it's very sad to go through this process. But we can't really do anything if we don't have the materials to work with to try to find this cause. And I think the community is now, realizing that the more they get involved, the more they participate, the better outcome it will be for their family members or themselves along the ways or in the future years. I just realized that I've been probably 2 slides that I haven't said anything in Spanish. So, en esta gráfica, lo que quiero demostrar es que ustedes se preguntarían por qué dar tanto dinero para seguir haciendo estudios de genética cuando ya existe casi 50% de este círculo en donde existen genes ya relacionados al Alzheimer. Hay 2 razones. Una, porque la otra mitad todavía son genes que nunca se han descrito para la enfermedad. Y la otra es que porque la mayoría de los estudios que forman parte del ADGC o del Genetic Consortium que yo les hablaba anteriormente, las poblaciones que representan esos estudios son poblaciones blancas o europeas o poblaciones blancas no hispanas, como es conocido en el mundo de la investigación. Entonces, uno no puede generar un tratamiento o generalizar un tratamiento cuando la población de estudio es una población muy diferente a la población a la que uno le va a dar el tratamiento. Entonces, hay que hacer estudios específicos de cada población para saber las diferencias que existen entre ellas y poder generar un tratamiento específico para cada comunidad. Y es parte de lo que estamos haciendo con el precision medicine. And that's part of what we're doing for precision medicine, trying to find the specific drug targets for specific populations. ¿Y por qué hacer estos estudios en poblaciones hispanas o en poblaciones afroamericanas? Uno, porque existen los recursos económicos y los científicos queremos ayudar a las comunidades, pero no podemos hacer nada si no tenemos la participación de las personas. Es decir, nosotros podemos tener el conocimiento y podemos tener los materiales, pero si las personas no participan en los estudios de genética, es muy difícil para nosotros poder llegar a un resultado específico para estas comunidades. So, something that you might remember from your high school or your middle school, why is it important to know genetics? And the reality is that we all have our genetic DNA, right? And our genetic DNA varies from person to person. Even though 99% of our DNA looks very similar to each other, that 1% that has the difference between individuals may be very important in terms of disease and other factors in our life. So in order to explain genetics, specifically in the Americas, right, we need to go back to history. So how is our genetics DNA or our genetic information built? How is it built? So we, and I say we because I am Hispanic as well. So the Americas they got their DNA from the colonization process. So when the Americas were colonized, right, remember there was mainly Europeans that came to the Americas to take the land, work on the land, etc. They brought along as well some people from Africa to help them work the land. So when they got there, remember, they also found that there were people living there, which were native or Amerindian population. So there's a mix, right? So we have European background, we have African background, we have Amerindian or native background. And the percentage varies because, depending on how people were, creating their families or forming their families, that changed it depending on where the colonization process was. And it's all about the admixture, right? Nowadays, it's very difficult to say that there is a pure population. There are very small areas where they limit themselves to a certain area and either because of religious, because of geographic locations, but the rest of the world, it's very mixed. Now you have people that are from the Americas that get married with people from Europe, from Asia, from Africa. So, there's no way to stop that mixture. That's the reality. para poder hablar de la genética y cómo la genética está creada en nuestro cuerpo, tenemos que ir a los años atrás, a la historia de cómo fue colonizada América, ¿verdad? América fue colonizada más que todo por los europeos que vinieron a las Américas, y ellos trajeron con ellos personas de África que vinieron a trabajar las tierras, etc. Cuando ellos llegaron allí se dieron cuenta que habían personas que ya vivían en esas tierras, que eran los nativos o indios, que eran los originales de esas tierras. Entonces, el ADN de nosotros es bien mezclado, y digo nosotros porque yo soy hispana también, y el porcentaje de la mezcla varía de una persona a otra. Y la realidad es que ahorita existen muy pocas poblaciones en donde la genética está controlada, es decir, hay muy pocas zonas en donde, ya sea por cuestiones religiosas o por problemas geográficos, se limitan a una zona específicamente. El resto de la población es mixta, y ahorita es prácticamente imposible de tener esa mezcla, porque tienes personas de las Américas que se casan con personas asiáticas o personas europeas, o personas de otro continente, y la mezcla sigue aumentando, y es algo que no vamos a poder detener a nivel mundial. So this is probably one of the most important graphs that I'm going to share with you guys today. And this is the reason why we are doing what we're doing, the genetic studies and minority population. So I'm going to try to orient you in this graph. So from left to right, there's 4 different colors, and I think it's hard to see with all these lights, but I'm going to try to explain it. So from left, you have a yellow color, which means people with almost 100% or pure African background, so people from Nigeria and the African continent. And then you have in red, people with Asian background. And then you see people on the far right, which are blue, which are mainly European. And there is a big group in the middle, which is mixed. And from left to right, there's the first group that is mixed. It's called the Central Amerindian. The green color, it's native, or Amerindian population, or what we call founders. So as you can see, there's differences in between colors from each area or each country. And in the first one, when you see the Central Amerindian, you barely see the blue, which means they don't have too much European background. They have probably 70 to 80% Amerindian background, and they have a slight 10 to 15% Asian background and a little bit of African background. When you move down the right, you find the first country in South America, which is Colombia, where you see a dramatic shift. So you see almost 50% or more of blue area in there, which means they are more European. They're like 60% European. But you see more of the yellow. You don't see too much red. So they are almost 60 to 65% European. They're 25-ish African, but they're and 25 African and 25 Amerindian, but there's not much Asian background in there. Then you move to Peru, which you would think, well, they're kind of close to each other, Colombia and Peru, but there's a very big difference. Now they are 65 to 70% Amerindian, which is the green color. They're like 20% European, but then you see a lot of red going inside. They have like 20% or 15% Asian background. And then you move to Argentina, which is close to Peru, and then that European ancestry also shifts. It goes up to 75, almost 80%, and then a little bit of African, a little bit of Asian, and a little bit of native. And then the countries in the far right are mainly European. And you will think, well, yeah, whatever, we know this. Why is this important? And the reality is that even though we used to think that our genetics are important just because how we look or how our culture is or what we eat or how we tend to call our grandmas or something like that, it is very important for health. And the reality is that even if you think that your genetics just give you how you look or your phenotype background may not correlate with your genetic background in a specific condition. And let me break down that a little bit more. Even though you think that the phenotypic part may be associated with everything else in your body, the reality is that that's not the case. So in this graph, this is a chromosome plot. So this shows you there's 23 chromosomes, but here we're only showing 22 chromosomes. We took the sex or the gender chromosome out, right? So you have, on the left side, you have 1 to 22, meaning the 22 chromosomes that we all have. They are not related to sex or gender. And then on the right side, you have the amount of DNA per chromosome that we have. So let's say we want to know about that ApoE4. So there was one question where they asked, what's the relation between the ApoE4, or how can I get my ApoE4 testing? Am I at greater risk? Am I at lower risk? And what my boss has found is that ApoE4 has a greater risk in Europeans or people with European backgrounds. But there's not much, there's not too many certain knowledge about ApoE4 in Africans or Hispanics. Is it that they have less risk, or is it that they have protective variants of that gene and they just suffer other variants for other genes? We don't know for sure. And when we started to do this research, we wanted to see specifically in that chromosome 19 where the ApoE4 lives or resides, right? Where is your background in that specific area? So this is just a reference data. And I'm going to try to point, so this is chromosome 19, and let's say, that the ApoE stays in this block, right? So this is red, and this will mean that your ApoE4 is an European ancestry. So this means that if you have an ApoE4 and your background in that specific genetic block is European, you have 50% chance of developing the disease. Like Dr. Lusinger was saying, there is that risk, but it also depends on how you live, how you eat, how many diseases you have, et cetera, et cetera. But it does give you some information and some preliminary data of the risk you may have. So let me show you. This is the same plot, but in different countries. You might say, well, they're all Hispanic. There's people from Colombia, people from Dominican Republic, from Puerto Rico, people from Cuba, Honduras, people from Haiti. The colors are very different. And you might think, well, that is very hard to understand. And they might look alike, and people that are not Hispanic might think, oh, they all look the same, because that's what we usually hear. But the reality is that we are not the same. And that's one of our biggest challenge in science. Hispanics do not look the same, do not react the same to medication, to treatment. There are some cultural differences, believe it or not, from countries to another country, and we have to try to assess this in order to be successful in treating this condition. So let's go back to what we were talking about, and let's try to find the 19 in each areas. So let's say you are Honduran, right? And there's your chromosome 19. And you have your ApoE right here. So you're yellow. That means you have a native background on the ApoE4. So that people that have native background or they are Asians and in the ApoE4 are thought to have higher risk than the rest of the population. So even higher than Europeans. So if you have this ApoE4 in the yellow area, that means something completely different than people that have an African background, for example. So if you see, let's go to Haiti. So you see it's mainly blue, which means they are mainly black, African American in the genetic background. Oh, sorry. So if you go to chromosome 19 in Haiti, you have the ApoE in blue. So it's thought to, we think, as our preliminary data has come from recent studies in African Americans, is that the African American community has less risk if they have an ApoE4 than if their genetic background is European. We don't know why, but it might be that there are some other genes. For example, we found another gene, which is the ABCA7 gene, that has some variants that has been discovered in African Americans that never been discovered in any other population. So it doesn't mean you are out of the risk, but it could mean that there is other factors that are contributing to this differences. And then you go to, let's say, Colombians, and again, they look more like the chart that I just showed you, that they look more red, meaning that they have European background in their chromosome 19. Estas gráficas que he mostrado básicamente explican el componente genético diferente que existe dentro de los hispanos. Los colores básicamente significan cuál es tu background genético, ya sea europeo, sea africano, sea amerindian o nativo, o sea asiático. Entonces, es importante saber que indistintamente que muchas personas creen que, por ejemplo, los hispanos somos todos iguales, que nos vemos todos iguales, que tenemos las mismas culturas, las mismas creencias, físicamente lucimos similares. La realidad es que genéticamente no lo somos. Y hay una diferencia grandísima que estaba, digamos, oculta a la realidad de las personas, pero que nosotros los científicos sí teníamos una intuición de que esto existía y de que esto tenía un componente importante a la hora de generar un tratamiento o una investigación específica para estas comunidades. Quiero decirles con esto que el riesgo, por ejemplo, si usted tiene en su ADN, tiene el gen ApoE con ancestro europeo, su riesgo de tener Alzheimer es 50% más que una persona que tenga en ese mismo gen su gen provenga de descendencia africana, por ejemplo, o de descendencia amerindian o indígena. Entonces, es importante saber esto para poder generar tratamientos que sean específicos para cada población. Sí. Voy a explicar en español las diferencias, por ejemplo, entre Puerto Rico y República Dominicana. Como pueden ver, son las dos gráficas aquí abajo. Tenemos en Puerto Rico, la ven un poco más roja, República Dominicana es un poco más azul. En el caso de los puertorriqueños, por ejemplo, en el cromosoma 19, que es donde está el gen de la ApoE, podemos ver que en este caso, por ejemplo, está pintado de rojo. Es decir, tienen ese componente genético de ese gen. La mayoría es europeo, es decir, ellos pueden tener, esto no es en todo, estas gráficas son generalizaciones, es decir, cada persona difiere, pero esto es lo que da el reference data, o sea, la data de referencia de los estudios genéticos, da que en los puertorriqueños, ese gen en el cromosoma 19 la mayoría de las veces es europeo, es decir, ellos tendrían 50% más riesgo de tener Alzheimer que una persona que tenga el componente genético en ese gen, ya sea africano o asiático, por ejemplo. En el caso de los puertorriqueños lo vemos azul, es decir, que tiene, dominicano, tienen el componente genético africano, es decir, ellos tienen menos riesgo de tener Alzheimer por el gen ApoE, pero pueden tener el riesgo por otros genes que no necesariamente sean este gen. Lo que en cierta parte muchas personas piensan, oh, bueno, me beneficio porque no tengo el riesgo de ApoE, pero en otras partes no es tan beneficioso porque no existen tantos estudios en genes que no sean el ApoE porque no se han descrito hasta ahora. Entonces, es bien importante, y ustedes pensarán, bueno, pero Puerto Rico y República Dominicana están al lado, son personas que se llaman hermanos, que están cerca, que realmente tienen muchas cosas en común. De hecho, aquí en Nueva York hay mucha comunidad puertorriqueña y dominicana y viven cerca. Tienden a vivir en zonas parecidas y existen diferencias entre en estas dos poblaciones y es importante conocer estas diferencias. There's another example of how different Hispanics could look depending on where they are in their geographic map, either in their country or specifically here in the United States. So this is data from our studies. These are, again, the same graphs showing, in this case, 3 different colors. Red, it's European background. Blue means African background. Yellow means Amerindian or native background. So, for example, if you go to communities you should say New York instead of Puerto Rico. So, communities from New York and Boston show maybe 65 to 70% of the Hispanics have European background, around like 10 to 50% African background, and 10 to 50% native background. If you go to California, the other or the opposite side of the country, then you see a lot more yellow, meaning that they're more native. And the thought behind this is that the immigration, how people immigrate from their country. So you see people that immigrate from the Caribbeans and the top part of South America, go to Boston, New York, Upper East states, for example, Connecticut. So you see people from Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti. You see that they move to kind of these areas. And then you see people from California, they move from the central part of America. So Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, so they have more Amerindian background than they do have either African or European, for example. And then we have Miami, where again, you see a lot more European background, like Cubans, for example, have a high percentage of European background and less Amerindian and less African. So because of all of this that I have mentioned, we decided that we wanted to help the Hispanic communities. And we wanted to help them find answers why this condition affects them and what can we do to help them. So, por toda esta información que di anteriormente, nosotros decidimos crear unos estudios para tratar de poder ayudar a las poblaciones hispanas o afroamericanas a buscar la solución de estas enfermedades y poder tratar de conseguir medicamentos específicos para estas poblaciones. So we created PRADI. PRADI stands for Puerto Rican Alzheimer's Disease Initiative. This is a study that it's funded by the NIH, and it started in 2016. We have had 2 years of successful collaboration with some partners that we have in Puerto Rico. And so far we have around 600 participants that we have included in our study. And we were really helpful for the welcoming that they have had for us every time we go to the island. And we're now expanding our recruiting effort because of what happened with the hurricane to other states inside of United States, because a lot of people have migrated to the States. Nosotros hemos creado el estudio PRADI. PRADI significa el estudio de Alzheimer en Puerto Rico, la iniciativa del estudio del Alzheimer en Puerto Rico. Tenemos 2 años que comenzamos el estudio. Esto es un estudio patrocinado por el Instituto Nacional de Salud. En estos 2 años tenemos un total de 600 participantes. Nosotros estamos muy agradecidos porque ellos han sido bien receptivos con nosotros cada vez que vamos a la isla, pero ahora estamos expandiendo el recruitment o el reclutamiento de pacientes, porque muchas personas se han movido a los Estados Unidos por el huracán María. So, even though I mentioned the main reason why we started this research, the other reason is statistics. So what does statistics say to you? So we have a population in Puerto Rico that has around 3 million or almost 4 million people. Out of that amount of people, you have around 617,000 that are above 65 years old. And this is very important because the prevalence of AD in the island, it's around 13%, meaning there's around 75,000 people that suffer the condition. So imagine that now there's a lot of people going out of the island. There's a lot of people that have difficulties because of the condition to go out of the island. And there's a lot of people like you guys that are caregivers that if they go out of the island, then that means that they have to bring their significant other, and that just makes it a lot more difficult. So it is very important because right now it's the 4th cause of death in Puerto Rico. And 60% of the patients are women. And this is another question that was asked to Dr. Lusinger. And the reality is that the statistics out there have always mentioned that females are more affected than males. And like he was saying, there's no too much support behind this other than, oh, we have this amount of participants, 80% or 65% of them are women, and that's what we're taking. But we don't know. It might be that males died before. It might be that males don't go to receive medical care. It means that they could feel that they don't want to share this with other relatives. It could be that they go outside of their home to have another family or to live on their own, and family members don't know of their condition. It happens to us a lot when we go to Puerto Rico. We start asking the family about their family history, and we say, do you know anybody else? And somebody might say, well, I thought my father had it, but I never knew who he was, or I never met him, or he went away when I was young, or I don't talk to his family, so I don't know. So it's kind of hard to say that females are more affected than males. Also, females tend to be, because they're their mothers, their grandmas, their beloved aunts or something like that, people tend to, or they tend to live more with the family or closer relatives, so that's why they get the care they need. So there is social differences that it could play, that have a role in this percentage or this statistics. This is a graph showing you the impact of Alzheimer's disease in Puerto Rico. And there's different colors of, different shades of purple. The darker shades show you the areas with less density or less amount of people that live in the area, but with higher or big percentage of people with Alzheimer's disease in those areas. So when we saw this graph, we basically took this graph and used it as our way to build the recruitment effort and try to go to the island into specific areas where we thought they had more more population affected by the condition. And oh, I'm sorry. Yes, so, thank you. Una de las razones por las cuales estamos haciendo este estudio es por los números y la estadística que existe. Y esto está disponible para cualquier persona en el Internet. En la población de Alzheimer, la población de Puerto Rico, perdón, está conformada por alrededor de 3.400.000 habitantes. De esa cantidad de personas, alrededor de 600.000 personas tienen 65 años o más. De esa cantidad de personas, se dice que alrededor de 77.000 personas, es decir, 13% de la población puede sufrir de Alzheimer o algún tipo de demencia. El Alzheimer representa la cuarta causa de muerte en Puerto Rico y 65% de estas personas son mujeres. Y yo explicaba un poco en inglés para tratar de responder esa pregunta que habían hecho al doctor Lusinger, que realmente no se sabe si es que existe un mayor porcentaje de personas afectadas que son mujeres o es que los hombres no van a recibir atención médica o los familiares los desconocen o se mueren más temprano y no llegan a recibir atención. O sea, existen varias causas por las cuales esto puede explicar el incremento en las mujeres y no en los hombres. Esto básicamente es el mapa de Puerto Rico en donde muestra las áreas afectadas por el Alzheimer. Lo más oscuro representa las zonas en donde tienen menos densidad, es decir, menos cantidad de personas, pero mayor incremento de pacientes con Alzheimer. Y nosotros utilizamos este mapa para básicamente crear nuestro plan de acción y que cada vez que fuéramos a la isla, tratar de ir a esas zonas en donde había más cantidad de personas con la condición y tratar de ayudar a esa comunidad. Nuestro estudio, como yo les comentaba, our study, like I mentioned, you could participate if you have a relative that has Alzheimer or any type of dementia, Alzheimer's type, or any type of memory loss. You could participate if your family has more than 2 individuals that have the condition. You could participate as a control or an unaffected person within the family, but you have to be 65 years or older unless you have or the relative has the condition. It doesn't matter how old they are if they have the condition. But if you don't have the condition, you have to be 65 years or older. And the reason why some people ask, well, why are you recruiting people that don't have the condition? So, and like I was mentioning, the admixture or the mix of genetic DNA is important. So in order for us to compare the DNA from somebody that has the condition, somebody that don't have the condition, is to include those people. We can match our DNA from people that are affected from specific populations to reference data, meaning people that don't have the condition with a different genetic background, because it won't mean anything. So we have to include people that have the same genetic background, but that don't have the condition, so we can compare them. Entonces, esta lámina es importante. Estas son las personas que pueden participar en el estudio, las personas que tienen la condición de Alzheimer o cualquier tipo de demencia pueden participar a cualquier edad. Las personas que tengan algún familiar con la condición de Alzheimer, dos familiares con la condición de Alzheimer, o pueden participar personas que no tengan la enfermedad dentro de la familia, pero que tengan más de 65 años. Y la razón por la cual nosotros incluimos a estas personas es porque la única forma de poder comparar el ADN de una persona que tenga la condición y una persona que no tenga la condición, pero que tengan el mismo componente genético, es incluir a las personas sin la condición. De nada sirve estudiar el ADN de personas con la condición, con un background genético hispano o afroamericano, si el control o la persona sin la condición es europea. O sea, de nada sirve. Entonces tienen que ser personas con la misma composición genética para poder comparar estas dos personas. And what's involved? So Vanessa, my friend, my colleague, has information about our study. They have brochures and has interest sheets, so you can write your name, phone number, and address if you would like to participate, or if you have a family member that you would like to include in the genetic studies of Alzheimer's disease. You can fill out that sheet. We will help you fill it out. We're here the entire conference, and we can give you more information about the study. If you would like to participate, or if you would like your family member to participate, what it involves, of course, you have to sign the consent to allow us to include you in the study. You'll have to give us information about your family history, just so we know that if there was Alzheimer's or any other type of dementia in the family, or any other disease that might contribute to the condition. We run some memory tests just to see how you or your family member are doing, and this is the only way that we can see the progress of the disease, and see where you are, and where your relative is, and where that person will be in 1 year, 5 years, or 10 years. And you'll have to give a blood sample, and you'll have to get medical records. Medical records are usually requested only for people that have the condition, but sometimes if the unaffected relative, or what we call control, has other illness that it is important to have records of, we might ask to get a copy of the records. Si usted decide participar, básicamente lo que tendría que hacer es obviamente llenar el consentimiento informado. Mi compañera Vanessa tiene brochures de nuestro estudio y tiene unos sheets para llenar si están interesados, donde usted coloca su número, su nombre y su dirección, y nosotros la contactamos para darle más información. Le preguntamos acerca de la historia familiar de la familia para ver si existe otra persona con la enfermedad de Alzheimer o otra enfermedad que sea importante para nosotros saber. Le hacemos unos test de memoria para nosotros saber cómo está la persona ahorita, cómo está la persona en 1 año, en 5 años o en 10 años y cómo ha evolucionado la enfermedad. Una muestra de sangre y copia de los récords médicos. La única forma de nosotros confirmar la información que la persona nos está dando es a través de los récords médicos. Usualmente los pedimos solamente para los casos, es decir, las personas que tienen la condición, pero si la persona no afectada o el control de la familia tiene alguna otra enfermedad que para nosotros es importante tener récord de eso, pues podemos pedir una copia del récord médico. Other information about the study, as you may know, all the research participation is volunteer, and all the information is confidential. Everything is de-identified, meaning that at the time that you start your process of participating in the study, you get one number assigned to you. It's a barcode. None of your information goes into either the blood sample or the database. So you become just a code. There is, of course, a system that correlates the information with the sample. The only people that are allowed to have that information are the researchers, and researchers have specific rules in order to go inside of medical records. Of course, there is the HIPAA that protects the participants for any information to be disclosed, so everything is kept confidential. It's volunteer participation. There's no cost. You don't have to go to Miami, but if you want to, you're welcome. We go to you, meaning that we go to your house, regardless of where you live. That's part of why the grant was given to us, in order to have money and funding to come to things like this, or come to your house to see you, to evaluate you, to do your blood test for free, and to be able to include you in genetics studies of Alzheimer's disease. The genetic results, this is usually a question that pops up from the audience. So because this is research, what we do is we give results as a general result from the study. What means is you will get in the mail a yearly letter with the results from the study. It will not say Maria Lopez has Alzheimer's, but it will say, from the study of Puerto Rico, we found that X amount of participant has greater risk of ApoE4, et cetera, et cetera. The ApoE4 we do in-house for this study, and what you could do is reinforce this if you want to know the results with clinical testing. We have a lot of patients from Puerto Rico that are getting this done by their physicians, and we are just kind of reinforcing that result with the genetic testing. But you have to do clinical testing in order for you to get specific treatment for your ApoE type. And the investigation will not affect your health care or your insurance coverage. Has nothing to do with clinical trials. We do not provide drugs. We don't give you any freebies or nothing like that for you to take as a medication. But we do study your genetics and the importance of the genetic background for Alzheimer's disease. And with this, I'm going to end my talk. I want to thank my team, especially Vanessa Rodriguez, who was in contact with Roberto and setting this up. If you have any questions, I'm glad to take any.
Thank you, doctora. Okay. Una pregunta, how many questions do we hold? There's right away. Okay. Aquí vamos. What's your question, sir?
Good morning. How many different dementia do we have out here? We talk about different dementia.
How many?
La pregunta de
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a very good question. And there's different types and different causes. So there's dementias due to genetic factors, which could be Alzheimer's disease, for example. There is dementia called Lewy body dementia, which is dementia known to look similar clinically to Alzheimer's disease, but it's specifically caused by kind of like a molecule that is called Lewy body that kind of stays in your brain and causes specific clinical outcomes. There is dementia caused by infection. You could have Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which is called the crazy cow dementia, which is people that remember, I don't know if you heard it from the news, people that ate mad cow disease. I said crazy. So that ate raw meat and then they were infected by that. There is virus type of dementia. For example, people that have HIV could suffer from dementia, but it's not Alzheimer's type. There's people that could have frontal lobe dementia, which is just in the front part of the brain, and that causes specific behaviors. They tend to be more aggressive. They tend to have physical problems. They are like either they are very stiff or they're too relaxed because the frontal part of the brain controls the extremities. So there's several types, and if you have questions about which type of dementia your family member has, or you or somebody that you know, the reality is that the only way to know is either to be evaluated by a physician that is a specialist in Alzheimer's disease, and to get all of this cognitive or memory tests that I was talking about that we do, because their scores are different. And it's depending on how they score in a specific section where we know, oh, this is a classical type of Alzheimer's disease dementia, or this does not look like dementia. There's one specific type that I'm gonna mention because it's very common out there and that we have trouble to separate from Alzheimer's disease, and that's a vascular dementia. So the more comorbidities or other diseases that you have with the Alzheimer's disease, meaning if you have heart disease, if you have diabetes, and if you have any type of vascular problem like peripheral coagulopathy, you have thrombos in your veins or arteries, any of those three conditions could give you a dementia like Alzheimer's disease presentation, and has nothing to do with Alzheimer. The only way to know this is to look at the vasculature in your brain and other parts of the body and be like, okay, this looks more like vascular, but the only way to make the clean cut is with autopsy. So there's people that have 10 years or 15 years thinking that they have Alzheimer's, and it could be vascular or vice versa. And I hope I answer your question with that. No problem.
Good question, good question. I see an hand over here.
Let me tell you about the toughest guy on earth. He does the work of 2 jobs, but only gets paid for one. He's tough enough to feed the man, gave him a lifetime of nourishment. He has the crazy strength to lift the man that raised him up without even flinching. That's right, no employee of the month bonus check here. This guy, no. This warrior will always be by his father's side, even if his dad will hardly remember. Good luck finding a gym to train for that. If this guy isn't the toughest guy on the planet, then I don't know who is. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. You can do it here. But you probably won't. You're busy. Kids, work, show coming back in 48 seconds. So let's do this now. Hold up 1 finger if you're a man, women, 0. 3 more fingers if you're over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40. If you're not sure, keep in mind you're sitting on a couch right now, so 1 more finger if you're not very active. 1 finger if yes, 0 if no. 1 yes, 0 no. Next, find the body type that looks most like you and hold up that many fingers while I look around awkwardly. And that's it. If you're holding up 5 fingers or more, you probably have prediabetes. Sorry to be so blunt, but hey, you're busy. Just go to the site.
35 over 92.
180 over 111.
182 over 100. And I had a heart attack and a cardiac arrest, and then a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a heart attack or stroke are far from invisible or silent.
My memory is shot.
When I woke up, I couldn't speak.
I can't button up a shirt. I can't run.
I've had to learn to swallow again. That's the only moments that I have. And I'm 33, so I never see this coming. If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
Had I done this, had I done that, hell, I messed up.
Get back on your plan, or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
Head to toe, everything's changed. Head to toe.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. At work or at play, you're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track.
Oh, hey. She's cute. Nice going, man.
Things are going great for you. You've earned a night out. Good drinks, good friends. Yeah, we can go ahead and call this a good night. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Not smart. Yeah, I saw that coming. Say goodbye to her. Ouch, that'll hurt your bank account. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. I hope you like eating frozen dinners. Alone. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Leaving hot coals improperly extinguished can cause a wildfire.
Hey guys, it's Smokey!
It looks as if Smokey is going to use the drown, stir, drown, and feel technique. After the first drown, a good start. Next, another drink. And finally, a close feel.
Is it cool? Okay. Yeah. Hey Smokey, catch! Oh, my bad, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
So how was work?
It was 1,300 hours. My math class from 302 was in the trenches. Davy Roth had it the worst. Fractions were coming at him left and right. He just didn't get the damn things. 2 days ago, I tried to teach him what 1/4 of 1/2 was using different sizes of blocks. Yesterday, I tried again by dividing up pizza. Both missions failed.
Oh, no.
But today, I was ready. I created a combat math game where the only way to beat the enemy is to out-fraction them. Davy conquered every last denominator. My game was so successful, the principal is deploying it to math squadrons all over the school. Anywho, how was your day?
Oh, today my boss treated the office to salad wraps.
Salad wraps.
I know.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
Let me tell you about the toughest guy on earth. He does the work of 2 jobs, but only gets paid for one. He's tough enough to feed the man that gave him a lifetime of nourishment.
He has the crazy strength to lift the man that raised him up without even flinching.
That's right. No employee of the month bonus check here. This guy, no, this warrior, will always be by his father's side, even if his dad will hardly remember. Good luck finding a gym to train for that. If this guy isn't the toughest guy on the planet, then I don't know who is. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. You can do it here. But you probably won't. You're busy. Kids, work, show coming back in 48 seconds. So let's do this now. Hold up 1 finger if you're a man, women, 0. 3 more fingers if you're over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40. If you're not sure, keep in mind you're sitting on a couch right now, so 1 more finger if you're not very active. 1 finger if yes, 0 if no. 1 yes, 0 no. Next, find the body type that looks most like you and hold up that many fingers while I look around awkwardly. And that's it. If you're holding up 5 fingers or more, you probably have prediabetes. Sorry to be so blunt, but hey, you're busy. Just go to the site.
35 over 92.
180 over 111.
182 over 100. And I had a heart attack and a cardiac arrest. And then a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a heart attack or stroke are far from invisible or silent.
My memory is shot.
When I woke up, I couldn't speak.
I can't button up a shirt. I can't run.
I've had to learn to swallow again. That's the only more minutes that I have. And I'm 33, so I never see this coming. If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
Had I done this, had I done that, hell, I messed up.
Get back on your plan, or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
Head to toe, everything's changed. Head to toe.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. At work or at play, you're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track.
Oh, hey. She's cute. Nice going, man. Things are going great for you.
You've earned a night out. Good drinks, good friends. Yeah, we can go ahead and call this a good night. Wait, is that your car? Uh-oh. Not smart. Yeah, I saw that coming. Say goodbye to her. Ouch. That'll hurt your bank account. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. I hope you like eating frozen dinners. Alone. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Leaving hot coals improperly extinguished can cause a wildfire.
Hey guys, it's Smokey!
It looks as if Smokey is going to use the drown, stir, drown, and feel technique. After the first drown, a good start. Next, another drink. And finally, a close feel.
Is it cool? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Smokey, catch! Oh, my bad, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.